The sky was calm. The stars above the planet of Lunaris shined like diamonds. The people of Lunaris, tall, thin, and peaceful creatures, were not ready for what came next. A dark ship broke through the clouds. It was silent, no warning, no message. Just a shadow floating over their capital city. The Council of Lunaris panicked. Is it the Gorgons? Pirates? A new enemy? They asked. But no one had answers, only fear. Then, the message came. Simple words. In Galactic Common, this is Captain Arya Cole of the Human Exploration Team. We come in peace. The room went silent. One word echoed through every mind. Human. Everyone knew the stories. Humans came from a death world, a planet, so dangers that even plants could kill. Their animals had poison. Their air was wild. Their oceans had monsters. And yet, humans had survived. No other species had done that. Some called them monsters. Others called them legends, but most called them dangerous. Now one of them was here. The ship landed slowly on the soft fields near the city. A group of Lunaris guards, shaking but brave, stood in formation. Their weapons were ready, but their hands trembled. From the ramp, one figure stepped out. It was not a giant, not a beast. Just a human. Medium height. Short dark hair, sharp eyes. Calm face. Captain Arya Cole walked forward slowly. Her suit was marked with scratches, signs of battles. But she didn't raise a weapon. She raised her hand, a peaceful greeting. The Lunaris guards didn't know how to react. She was smiling. Why was she smiling? Before anyone could speak, something moved behind her. A large four-legged creature stepped out of the ship. Its black fur shimmered in the light. Its teeth were sharp like knives. Its red eyes scanned the guards. Everyone took a step back. It was a raptor, a predator. From planet Klynos. The Lunaris knew about it. Even warships feared it. No one had ever caught one alive, but here it was, walking beside a human. Like a pet. The guards pointed their weapons. The raptor growled. Captain Cole gently touched the creature's back. Easy, she said softly. The raptor sat down. Quiet, obedient. Gasps filled the air. The Lunaris leader, Elder Ven, stepped forward. He was old, wise, and had lived through 3 wars. But even he looked nervous. You have control over the raptor? He asked. Captain Cole smiled again. Not control, she said. Trust. Elder Ven frowned. You tamed it? Cole shook her head. I didn't tame him, I adopted him. Confused silence, Elder Ven asked. Why would a human adopt a predator? Cole looked at the raptor. Then she looked up. Because he was alone. He was hurt. Others tried to kill him. But I saw something in his eyes. Something familiar. Elder Ven asked. Familiar? Yes, she said. Pain, fear, survival. Cole walked closer. The guards raised their weapons again, but she didn't stop. We come from a world where everything tries to kill you. Storms, fire, animals, even your own kind. We learn to survive, but we also learn to care. Care, Elder Ven asked. Yes, we care for those who are broken. Scared, left behind. That is what makes humans different. She knelt down and opened her backpack. Inside was a small alien creature, shivering, weak. It looked like a baby, with glowing skin and tiny eyes. I found this one on planet Arvos. Everyone called it useless, a monster. I call her Hope. The baby alien squeaked and hid. In her arms, Elder Ven stepped closer, slowly. You help them? Cole nodded. We don't see monsters. We see possibilities. Whispers spread across Lunaris. She adopted a raptor. She carries the forgotten ... Humans are not what we thought ... And then a sound came from the forest. A loud roar. One of Lunaris's own wild predators, the Fenrith beast, broke from the trees. The guards screamed. Weapons fired. But the beast charged faster than their bullets. Everyone was about to run. When the raptor moved fast, furious, loyal had jumped in front of the Lunaris and fought the beast. It was brutal, loud, dust filled the air, and then silence. The raptor stood tall, bleeding but alive. The Fenrith beast was gone. Captain Cole ran to her companion, knelt beside him, and whispered, "Good boy." Elder Ven couldn't believe what he saw. He turned to his people. "This is not a monster," he said, "is a protector." As the sun set, the people of Lunaris looked at the human and her strange family. They came in peace. They came with monsters, but maybe they came with something more. Humanity had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same again. The people of Lunaris didn't sleep that night. Whispers floated through every street, every home, every channel. They walk with predators. They speak softly, but fight like storms. They adopt monsters. The human ship remained silent under the moonlight. No doors opened, no signals came. Yet, it felt like something was watching, something ancient, something calm. Early the next morning, before the sun rose fully, Elder Ven stood near the edge of the city forest. He was not alone. Hidden behind him were 10 guards, watching every shadow, every movement. Then they heard it. The heavy, slow steps of something large, not stomping, just walking like it belonged here. It was the human again. Captain Arya Cole. Beside her walked the raptor, injured but proud. But that wasn't what stopped Elder Ven from breathing. Walking behind them was another creature. This one was taller than a building. A giant lizard with glowing blue veins running across its back. Its mouth steamed with heat, and its eyes burned orange. The Lunaris had only seen that species in war reports. It was known as a Tharnuk, a predator from a molten planet, too wild to cage, too strong to kill. But here it was, calm, silent, following the human like a dog follows its trainer. Elder Ven stepped forward carefully. "You brought another one?" Cole stopped. She looked tired, like she hadn't slept either. But her voice was steady. "He followed us from the southern mountains. We didn't ask him to. He came on his own." Elder Ven's voice dropped. "Why?" Cole knelt and placed her hand on the Tharnuk's scaly leg. The creature let out a low rumble, not angry, just peaceful. "Because I fed him," she said. Ven blinked. "You fed a Tharnuk?" Cole shrugged. He was hungry. The elder couldn't believe what he was hearing. Feeding monsters? Bonding with beasts that destroyed worlds? "This isn't normal," he said. Cole stood again, brushing dirt from her knees. "Nothing about us is normal," she said. "We come from a world where nature never gave us a break. We were weak at first. We had no claws, no wings, no armor. Everything could kill us." She paused, looked at the sky, and continued. "But we didn't die. We adapted. We learned. We became something nature couldn't defeat." Ven stared at her. "So now you think you can tame everything?" She shook her head. "Not tame, understand. These creatures, they aren't evil. They're just lost, like we once were." The raptor leaned against her leg. The Tharnuk sat down behind her, the ground shaking slightly under its weight. Ven looked at the creatures again. Their bodies were made for war, but their eyes told another story. There was no rage, no hate, just stillness. "How many have you adopted?" he finally asked. Cole smiled faintly. "Too many to count. We don't adopt them all. Only the ones who choose us." Ven folded his hands. "And if one doesn't choose you?" Her eyes hardened. "Then we leave it alone. We never force a bond. That's not what trust is." Suddenly, a sharp alarm rang out across the forest. A high-pitched warning signal only used for real danger. One of the guards shouted from the treetops, "Something is coming, west side. Large heat signature." Ven and Cole both turned at the same time. Out of the dark trees came a beast none of them expected. It was covered in silver fur. Its face had 6 eyes, glowing like fire. Its limbs bent in ways that made it move almost like liquid. The creature was fast, deadly, known across 6 systems as a star leech, a hunter that could melt steel and move through shadows. The guards aimed their weapons. Cole didn't move. The raptor snarled. But then, something strange happened. The star leech stopped, right in front of them. It didn't growl. It didn't hiss. It turned to the Tharnak. The 2 predators stared at each other. Then the star leech did something no one had ever seen it do. It lowered its head, submissive, calm, curious. The Tharnak stepped forward, sniffed the creature once, then walked past it, as if saying, "Come along." The star leech followed. Elder Ven felt his knees weaken. "This isn't real," he whispered. Cole stood beside him. "They talk to each other in ways we don't understand. It's not just me. It's what I represent. Not fear, not dominance, but safety." She turned to Ven and said softly, "Even monsters want to feel safe." The star leech licked a small cut on the raptor's shoulder. The raptor didn't resist. They all sat together under a giant tree. Different species, different worlds. One circle. Ven stepped back, speechless. You're building something." Cole didn't deny it. She just nodded. "Not a zoo," she said. "Not an army." "Then what?" he asked. "A family," she said. "Of the forgotten, of the feared, of the misunderstood." "And you think they'll protect you?" She looked toward the horizon. "No," she said. "I think they already have." The sun rose slowly over the mountains. Light spilled across the trees, touching fur, scale, and steel. The predators were not predators anymore. They were hers, and they had chosen her. In the distance, something else stirred, watching, waiting, because word was spreading across the stars. The humans had arrived, and they were adopting the galaxy, one monster at a time. The universe had never seen anything like them. Humans, not conquerors, not colonizers, but something far more dangerous to the cold order of the galaxy. They cared, and that made them unpredictable. Words spread across the stars like wildfire, from the snow-locked moons of Ventari Prime to the glass deserts of Rixanine. Stories were whispered in docking bays, back alley dens, and even in royal chambers. Stories of the Deathworlders who didn't kill monsters, but welcomed them. The Galactic Council tried to ignore it. "Just stories," they said. "Old myths, emotional nonsense." But the stories kept growing. And then they started appearing in the footage. Surveillance drones captured blurry clips. On one planet, a human explorer walked through acid rain with a 6-eyed sky beast perched gently on her shoulder. On another, a video showed a predator 10 times her size laying by her feet like a pet. In one clip, a swarm of creatures, feared, across 3 sectors, paused their attack just because a human said, "Stop." And they obeyed. The galaxy started paying attention. Arya Cole didn't seek attention. She didn't want fame or power or command. She and her small crew, 5 humans and a dozen alien creatures, moved quietly between systems, helping where they could, disappearing before anyone asked too many questions. But the truth couldn't hide forever. Her next stop was the jungle. Planet of Muars. Ayadata was beautiful. Thick green forests, crystal clear rivers, and skies full of violet light. But it was known for one thing: the Howlers, creatures made of bones and muscle, with long arms and faces like cracked stone. They moved in silence until it was too late. Marasia had been marked as uninhabitable for over 30 years. But Arya didn't believe in labels. Her ship landed on the edge of the forest. No guards, no backup, just her, a med kit, and 2 of her companions, the raptor and the Tar Nok. As she stepped into the jungle, a quiet followed her. Not the normal quiet of nature, a deeper quiet. The kind that watches from the shadows. 3 kilometers in, she found what she was looking for: a small crash site. A scouting pod from a peaceful trade ship, shot down 2 days ago, inside. The wreck, a child cried. A young alien, no older than 7, covered in cuts, shivering from fear. The howlers circled the pod, hidden in the trees, waiting for the right moment to strike. Arya didn't wait. She ran. The howlers moved, fast, too fast for most species. But not faster than her raptor, who leapt through the trees like a shadow. On fire. Arya reached the child, lifted them into her arms, and whispered, "I got you." Then she turned. A howler dropped in front of her. 2 more stepped from the trees behind. The Tharnak growled. Arya didn't flinch. She looked at the creatures, breathing hard, then dropped to one knee. She placed the child down gently and raised both hands. "I know what you are," she said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried weight. "You're not monsters. You're protectors. You think I'm here to harm the small one." The howlers didn't blink. Their mouths were full of teeth, their eyes glowing softly. She pointed to the Tharnak. "He thought I was an enemy once too." So did she. She nodded toward the raptor, who had returned, limping but alive. "So many of you live like ghosts, feared, hunted, shot at, lied to." She stood up slowly. "But I see you. I see the pain. I see the fear behind the rage. And I'm not here to fight." Silence. Then one of the howlers stepped forward, not aggressive. Curious. It sniffed the child, looked into Arya's eyes, and then it did the unthinkable. It sat. The others followed. The jungle quiet changed. It wasn't tense anymore. It was watching, yes, but with wonder that no one had ever walked through the Marashan forest and made it out. But that day, the Deathworlder walked back out, with a child in her arms and a pack of howlers walking beside her. Cameras captured the moment. A satellite had caught the entire thing from orbit. By the next galactic cycle, the footage had gone viral across 74 systems. News headlines screamed, "Human befriends howlers. Council demands explanation." Deathworld diplomacy, kindness or strategy? They don't tame monsters, they love them. Some called her dangerous, others called her a hero, but a few started asking a different question. What if she's right? On Ventari Prime, a biologist who once hunted sky beasts began studying them instead. On Klynos, a tribe of warriors stopped killing raptors and started observing their patterns. And on Rixanine, a group of outcasts opened a sanctuary, using techniques they learned from human footage. Change had started. Slow, small, but unstoppable. Because every time someone saw a human walking beside a predator, they saw something terrifying and beautiful. A new future, one where monsters weren't locked up or destroyed, but welcomed. The old leaders didn't understand. How could one fragile species, born on a nightmare planet, become the center of a new order? Because humans had discovered the oldest truth in the universe. Sometimes the most dangerous power is compassion, and that power was spreading. Arya Cole wasn't alone anymore. All across the stars, others were following her path, adopting the wild, creating bonds with the untouchable, becoming allies of the forgotten. And somewhere, in the darkest corner of space, something ancient and powerful stirred awake. Because even the oldest monsters had started to wonder, would the humans adopt them too? Rain fell slowly on the city of Kalen 5, but no one moved to cover themselves. No umbrellas, no shields. The streets were full, silent. Thousands of aliens stood under the gray sky, watching the holograms floating above the council tower. All screens showed the same image: a human kneeling beside a wounded predator, tears mixing with blood and mud, her hand gently stroking its dying face. The creature, eyes half closed, didn't growl or scream. It only watched her, quiet, trusting, peaceful. Then the screen blinked. A message appeared in all known languages. What if monsters were never the enemy? The footage had been recorded just a few days ago on Zentha 9, a mining colony overrun by Zarnlings, winged predators who could slice through titanium. A colony where no rescue team ever returned. Until Arya Cole. She didn't go with guns. She went with understanding. And she came back, injured, yes, but not alone. That's what changed everything. One of the Zarnlings returned with her, carried the wounded human pilot in its claws, landed gently at the colony gate, set the body down, and waited. No one knew what to do. The military wanted to shoot it. The scientists wanted to study it. But Arya stood in front of it and said just 4 words. He brought him home. Now across the galaxy, people were asking questions they'd never dared ask before. What if the beasts weren't beasts? What if the Deathworlders were right? But not everyone welcomed the idea. The Galactic Council, old, powerful, and afraid, held emergency meetings behind closed doors. They spoke of danger, of unpredictability, of control slipping from their hands. She's building an army of creatures we barely understand, said High Chancellor Turov of the Zenari. Or maybe, whispered Counselor Liran of the Silari, she's building something better. Outside the chambers, change was already happening. On a planet called Viros, war had broken out between 2 neighboring species, the Drek and the Malari. For centuries, they hated each other. Borders burned. Families lost. Peace talks failed. Again and again. But Arya Cole walked into that war without permission. She crossed the front lines, unarmed, wearing a ragged uniform and dust-covered boots. Beside her walked not soldiers, but her companions, the Raktor, the Tharnak, a howler, a gliding Nithbird, and a newly bonded XSERN-ling. At first, both armies laughed. Then they watched. She didn't speak to generals. She went to a burning village, helped carry the wounded, shared food, cleaned water, let children pet her predators. The children didn't scream. They smiled, and something changed. One night, a Drek warrior tried to ambush her tent. He didn't make it far. The Zarnling pinned him without hurting him, holding him still as Arya approached with calm steps. I don't blame you, she said. Fear makes us do stupid things. He asked why she came. She replied, because both sides think they're right. But your monsters aren't the ones with claws. They're the lies you've been told. The next morning, soldiers from both armies laid down their weapons to protect her camp from a wild pack of Virex beasts. The Raktor led the charge. The Drek stood beside it. The Malari followed. It wasn't peace. Not yet, but it was something. The first bond. News reached the council within hours. They demanded her arrest. But when a council ship landed, it was blocked, not by human ships, but by Drek and Malari soldiers standing side by side, refusing to hand her over. The council called it rebellion. The people called it awakening. On a live stream watched by 17 billion beings, Elder Ven of Lunaris stood before a crowd and said, "She is not building an army. She is building a mirror. And we do not like what we see in it." That day, something truly changed. It wasn't about Arya Cole anymore. It was about what she made others feel. Fearful predators began approaching human colonies not to attack, but to rest, to learn, to be seen. Scientists threw away old research that labeled them as dangerous and started fresh. Some alien parents still told their children, "Don't go near the humans, or their monsters will find you." But more and more were starting to say, "If you're ever lost, find a human. They'll bring you home." Arya Cole remained quiet through it all. She never gave speeches. She never sat on any throne. She just kept moving. From world to world, creature to creature, hurt to hurt, and on a quiet evening on a forgotten moon, she buried the Raktor. He died saving a Drek child from a cave-in. Arya didn't speak during the burial, but as she stood alone beside the grave, the Howler placed a stone over it. Then the Tharnak placed another. Then the Zarnling. And slowly, every creature in her care. Added their own, it became more than a grave. It became a monument, not to war, not to victory, but to love, something the galaxy never thought it would see between humans and monsters. Now they saw it, and they couldn't look away. Far away, in the deepest part of space, a message blinked in a hidden terminal. It said, "She is not a threat. She is a future we don't understand." And underneath that message, something ancient, something forgotten, opened its eyes for the first time in 1,000 years, because even the old gods of fear were beginning to wonder, were they monsters? Or just waiting to be adopted too? No bullets had been fired. No cities had fallen. No ships had been attacked. And yet, fear was rising faster than ever before, not because of what the humans did, but because of what they didn't do. In the halls of the Galactic Council, ancient species whispered across tables carved from comet, stone and void steel. Hushed voices, urgent meetings, security doubled, not against warships or armies, but against a single woman who walked with monsters. Arya Cole. She wasn't a queen. She didn't wear medals. She had no throne, no fleet, no flag. But her name was now spoken the same way people once said plague or prophet. Some called her a myth. Others called her a manipulator. But all agreed on one truth. Wherever she went, monsters changed, and the galaxy didn't know whether to be inspired or terrified. On planet Arcturus, a council intelligence team broke into a hidden human outpost. They found no weapons, no battle plans. Just shelters built from scrap, fresh water filters, and over 30 dangerous creatures sleeping peacefully around a fire. The recording they stole showed something strange. Venery Sky Killer, normally too wild to even touch, sat beside a human child. The child was drawing on its wing with colored chalk. Flowers, suns, smiley faces. The beast didn't flinch. It leaned closer, as if enjoying the attention. The agent who leaked that footage disappeared the next day. The council called for tighter controls. No more human interference, they said. No more Deathworlders outside their sector. But the problem was no longer about humans entering other worlds. Now other worlds were coming to them. Every week, new ships arrived at the edge of Earth space. Ships full of creatures once labeled unstable, untamable, unworthy. Species that the galaxy had abandoned, rejected, or hunted. Now seeking the one place where they felt safe. The humans didn't turn them away. They built homes. Not cages. They asked questions. Not for research, but for understanding. And one by one, the monsters began to tell their stories. It changed everything. Suddenly, the universe had to face what it had hidden for centuries. That maybe they were the cruel ones. That maybe their system was broken, and not everyone could handle that truth. A major broadcast from the inner core went viral. A famous political host, sharp-suited and smiling, looked into the camera and asked, "What happens when the monsters trust someone more than they trust us? What happens when your enemy stops being angry and starts being loyal? What happens when the Deathworlders are loved more than the rest of us?" Fear spread like oil on water. Some species closed their borders. Some passed laws banning human interaction. Some whispered about preemptive strikes. But still, the humans didn't respond. They kept walking, kept listening, kept healing. And that silence was louder than any war cry. In a cold region of space, on the mining colony of Eltheron, a young engineer named Aiko saw one of the bonded creatures for the first time. A Silkrath, long thought extinct, floated down from the cliff and laid beside a human medic. The human had just pulled a broken shard from its body, stitched its wound with shaking hands, and whispered, "You're okay now." The Silkrath stayed. Aiko recorded the scene. No edits, no music. Just the sound of the medic breathing, and the creature resting in the sand beside him. He uploaded it. It reached 5 billion views in 6 days. People cried. People panicked. And deep in a hidden lab, The council began working on something darker. Not a weapon, but a story. A message meant to twist everything. They released it on every channel, in every language. They're not adopting monsters. They're building a biological army. One that answers only to them. The footage was sliced, re-edited, made to look sinister. Creatures growling, wings spreading in shadow. Humans staring coldly at the camera. It worked. People got scared. Protests broke out. Ban the Deathworlders. Keep the monsters away. Protect our children. But something strange happened too. For every shout of fear, a quieter voice answered. Voices of those who had seen the truth. The Drek mother whose child was saved by a howler. The Mallory soldier who owed his life to a raptor. The alien merchant whose ship was guided through a storm by a sky beast who once tore through fleets. And they all said the same thing. She didn't build an army. She gave the forgotten a reason to trust again. Meanwhile, Arya Cole never made a statement. She never appeared on camera. She simply sat under a broken tree on a moon with no name, tending to the wound of a creature that had never been seen by council eyes. A serpent made of ice and light, breathing slowly, letting her touch it. No fear, no violence, just quiet. Her team, now made of humans and bonded beasts, camped nearby. Some slept, some kept watch, some just existed together. And in the quiet night, the serpent whispered its name to her, not in words, but in feeling. It had never done that before. Something was happening. Not just politics, not just fear, something older. Deeper. In the council chambers, reports grew stranger. Creatures once labeled non-communicative were beginning to speak. Dreams of humans were being reported by species who had never met them. Bonded. Predators refused to fight unless Arya allowed it, even when threatened. And in the dark corners of deep space, something old was listening, something that had been asleep for so long. It had forgotten its own name, but now, even that ancient terror had begun to stir, because across the stars, monsters were choosing sides, and more. They were choosing her. The council chamber had not been this full in centuries. Leaders from every sector, judges from every class, elders who hadn't left their homeworlds in lifetimes, all gathered under the great dome of Aurelian Prime, a room built from crystal and gravity-stabilized light, where laws had been passed, wars had been ended, and species had been erased with a single vote. Today, one human stood in its center. No army behind her, no beasts at her side, no weapons in her hands. Just Arya Cole. Her boots were still muddy. From the last moon she walked, her sleeves were torn. One of her fingers was wrapped in bark from a jungle tree, a makeshift. Bandaged. She didn't wear a uniform. She didn't kneel. She only stood there, quiet and calm, surrounded by hundreds of eyes filled with judgment. Human Arya Cole, a voice called. It came from the central pillar where the high voice sat, a species made of smoke and light, with eyes like burning stars. You are here today not as a visitor, not as a citizen, but as a question. A murmur rippled across the chamber. Question, not a criminal, not a hero, something more dangerous. Do you understand why you have been summoned? Arya looked up. Her voice didn't shake. Double quotes, yes. You're afraid. Another ripple. Louder this time. The high voice leaned forward. We are not afraid of one human. Arya tilted her head. Then why the guards at every door? Why the emergency broadcast across 17 systems? Why the satellites tracking my every move? The chamber went silent. One of the counselors, a thick-skinned Drexari, stood and shouted, because you are building a biological army. You have monsters that obey only you. You walk with creatures that broke planets. I walk with friends, Arya said quietly. Friends that your systems tried to erase. Another counselor spoke. You command beasts that have no loyalty to anyone else. They respond only to your presence. That's not command, she replied. That's trust. An older voice, dry and cracking, spoke from the side. "And why do they trust you?" Arya slowly reached into her coat. The guards tensed. Weapons were powered. Shields activated. But all she pulled out was an old holodisc. She placed it on the platform. With a soft hum, the image lit up. A recording. From Earth. A battlefield. Smoke. Screams. A soldier crawling through mud. Gunfire above his head. And then, a dog. Small. Shaking, blood on its fur. The soldier, despite everything, picked it up. Held it close. Carried it through the fire. The dog didn't run. It didn't bite. It simply stayed. The image flickered, then disappeared. No one spoke. Arya stepped back. "That's my species. That's what we are. We don't tame, we bond. Even when we're bleeding, even when we're dying, if something is scared and hurt, we reach for it." Another voice challenged her. "You mean to say that's your strategy?" Arya looked at them, tired. "No, that's just our heart." A long pause followed. Then, from the upper balconies, someone shouted, "Then why do the monsters follow?" "Only you," she answered without hesitation. "Because I don't make them follow. I let them choose." Gasps. Disbelief. Let them choose? The high voice rose fully from their throne. A swirling storm of light. "Then prove it." Arya frowned. "What?" "We have brought one here," the voice said. "One of the oldest, most violent predators in the known galaxy. Untouched by your influence, never encountered by your kind. Kept in stasis for thousands of years, it is awake now." A wall of light opened at the far end of the chamber. From the shadows stepped something vast, scales like black mirrors, eyes like frozen suns, limbs that moved like smoke through water. The Velther, a creature from forgotten nightmares. Entire planets had vanished in its wake. Silence deeper than fear fell over the chamber. And then, they sent it forward. Toward Arya. No weapons. No barriers. No control chip. The Council wanted proof. They wanted to see her break. They wanted to see her fail. The Velther moved slowly. It made no sound. Its head was taller than the chamber's ceiling. It stopped inches from her. Arya didn't run. She stepped closer. And then she did something the galaxy would never forget. She sat down. Cross-legged on the cold stone floor and whispered, "I see you." The Velther did not attack. It leaned down. Sniffed. Time stretched like glass. Then it lowered itself, laid its head beside her. And breathed. Slow, peaceful, like a creature who had finally found a place to rest. The chamber was frozen. No one moved. No one blinked. Not even the high voice. Arya looked up. "You asked for proof," she said softly. "Here it is. Even your worst fears want to feel safe." The Velther let out a sound, not a roar, not a growl, but something close to a sigh. Closed its eyes. Slept. Right there. In the heart of power. Because this wasn't about monsters anymore. It was about the mirror. The one Arya had held up to the universe, and what they saw inside it. The Council adjourned the session without a vote. There were no laws prepared for what they had just witnessed. Outside the chamber, people waited for news. When they saw the Velther beside her, eyes gentle, tail curled, no cage, no chains, they didn't scream. They knelt. One by one. Not in worship, but in understanding, because something had changed, and it could no longer be stopped. The galaxy did not sleep the night after the trial. The image of the Velther resting beside a human traveled faster than light. Children watched it before bed. Soldiers stared at it before battle. And in forgotten corners of space, monsters who had never been named watched it too. For some it was a sign of hope, for others, a symbol of collapse. But to Arya Cole, it was neither. To her, it was just another soul that had finally stopped running. She didn't speak to the media. She didn't make any speeches. She simply walked out of the chamber, nodded once to the guards, and disappeared into the night with the Velther behind her. But peace never lasts long when fear is still breathing. The very next cycle, the attack, came not from pirates, not from a wild species, from within. A secret faction inside the council, calling themselves the Preservers, launched a strike on Arya's location. They called it a containment mission. They sent warships, drones, gas fire, but she wasn't alone. They had forgotten that she hadn't built an army, but the galaxy had been watching, and when the skies lit up over the green moon of Idris, it wasn't the humans who struck back first. It was the predators. The raptors howled through the clouds. Sky beasts tore down missiles mid-air. Howlers leapt between the fire and the frightened. Zarnlings blocked the drones with their wings. Even the Velther, slow and silent, lifted its great body to shield those it now called kin. And the humans? They didn't fight. They healed. They pulled the wounded out of wreckage, put out fires with bare hands, held crying children, whispered to frightened creatures, and never once raised a weapon. The Preservers lost, not because they were outgunned, but because their enemy refused to become one. When the fires died and the smoke faded, Arya stood among the broken ground and broken hearts, and simply said, "You fear what you do not understand, but I feared once too." And someone reached out. "Now it's my turn." Those words became legend. A transmission echoed across the stars, not from Earth, not from the Council, but from the Predators. For the first time in recorded galactic history, a message was broadcast by the once considered mindless. The voice was deep, layered, rough, but clear. It spoke in broken galactic common, slowly, carefully. We were hunted, we were hated, we were hurt, but she looked at us and saw something else. Not monsters, family. The galaxy shook, not with war, with grief. Grief for every creature they had misunderstood, every species they had wiped out, every being they had labeled dangerous, without ever listening to its story. And that grief became action. On the desert planet of Exara, a warrior removed his armor and knelt before a wild storm beast. On the icy moons of Travax, soldiers sat there, rifles down, and opened their cages. On Earth, a child whispered to a clawed alien that had hidden in the woods for years, "You can come inside now, you're safe." And slowly everywhere, the adopted came home. Predators who had never known kindness, survivors of worlds that had no place for them. They came in silence. They came in fear, but they came, and humans opened the door. Not because they were fearless, but because they remembered what it felt like to be feared. The Council had no law for this, no system, no plan, but for once, they didn't need one, because the galaxy was rewriting itself, not with warships, not with rules, but with bonds. Trust became currency. Understanding became strength. And in the middle of it all was Arya Cole. She never took credit. She never led a nation. She simply kept walking, from system to system, from scar to scar, from story to story, adopting the forgotten, listening to the unheard, and reminding everyone, predator and prey, soldier and child, alien and human, of one unshakable truth. You don't have to be loved by all. You just have to be seen by someone. That was enough. That changed everything. And in the ancient corners of the galaxy, where shadows still lingered and old fears still clung to hollow bones, a quiet question began to rise. Do you think the humans would adopt us too?